tuned for the Joan Quinn Profiles. As an editor for Andy Warhol's Interview, the Los Angeles Herald-Examiner, LA Style, and Detour magazines, Joan covered the social set, the Hollywood hotshots, the international art scene, the mysteries of food, the excitement of travel, and the fabulous world of fashion. Joan continues to find creative people on the cutting edge who make things happen. Here's Joan Agajanian Quinn.
Hi, I'm Joan Quinn, and welcome to the Joan Quinn Profiles. Waiting to be profiled is actress Maripat Donovan and designer Marika Contomposis. Maripat Donovan was raised in Chicago, the product of Catholic schools and a strict Irish Catholic mother.
That's correct.
She has a long list of odd jobs to her credit, like fry cook, phone salesperson, directory operator, photographer, stylist. But the biggest job was starting a construction company.
That's right.
Instead of waiting on tables, which most actresses do or actors do. So we have to wonder why you started a construction company.
Well, here's the thing. You gave the answer right in your opening statement, Joan, when you said that actors and actresses generally work as waiters and waitresses. But the thing is, you don't make a lot of money working that way. If you're going to have to do a job on the side, pick a job that pays you a lot of money. And when I was in college, did a tremendous amount of technical theater work, and I learned about set construction and design. And so when I went out into the real world, I got a job that involved construction and tools, and it was the same tools and the same nails and the same glue and the same paint from one job to the next.
Well, then you answered my question. You did want to be an actor at that time.
Yes.
You just took on this big responsibility.
So you could pay your bills.
I see. But the other thing is I guess actors also work on construction jobs because there's breaks in between, or they can...
Well, I had my own company. I could do whatever I wanted. I could schedule the jobs. Yes, I scheduled it.
Did you hire actors?
Occasionally, when I had jobs to do.
Meant.
I hired several actors, actually. Usually, when I needed painters or something, somebody would come and work with me.
So you always wanted to act. Did you ever want to go to the convent?
Never. Well, that's not true. When I was, of course, all little girls, when they're in first or second or third grade, especially at the time when we were taught by a lot of nuns in our schools, we always thought about it. It's like, that was one of the things that it was a job for girls that you could think about. So,
to be a nun.
To be a nun. But after second grade, I stopped thinking about it.
I think we have to explain that you're in your garb.
That's right. I'm wearing my outfit from Late Night Catechism.
From your show, Late Night.
My habit. Why do you think they call it a habit, Joan?
Because you have to wear it every day.
Every day. That's right.
But you don't actually dress like this all day long.
No, never. No. I told you, just fresh out of the dryer, clean, ready to go.
Do you wear
just for you.
House dress?
I wear regular clothes.
You don't wear something like mothers who would come to see the nuns wear.
No. I just like I'm a regular person.
And so when
jeans and gym shoes and T-shirts and tops and like regular person.
Regular person.
Regular clothing.
When you go out, regular.
Not as stylish as the beautiful shawl that you're wearing today.
Marika made
beautiful.
This. She's going to be on next, so we'll get to see.
I'm going to try on some things.
Oh, I'm sure they'll fit
see if she has anything in black. I'll just pin it to the front of me.
Did you train as a stand-up comic?
You know what? No, I never did. I trained in improvisation in Chicago, and for 2 years I worked for Second City as a stage manager for their touring company.
Ah, Second City, very important
training ground. That's right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, did you get a lot of awards for Late Night Catechism, or did you got awards before?
That's right.
Before Late Night Catechism.
That's correct. I have a couple of Joseph Jefferson citations. In Chicago, the Jeffersons are like the Tonys in New York. So in Chicago, I have a couple of Joseph Jefferson citations for Best Supporting Actress and Best Ensemble for a couple of different plays, not for Late Night Catechism. And then in New York, when we opened the show off Broadway in New York, I got an Outer Critics Circle nomination for Best Solo Artist for that year. So it was very exciting.
For
Late Night Catechism, right.
We'll go, let's talk about the awards and what kind of acting you had to do to get those awards. And then we'll go back into Late Night Catechism because you're acting alone.
That's right.
So there are two different ways of looking at your career.
That's correct. When I started out acting in Chicago, I auditioned and did things that every other actor does. And in Chicago, if you're very lucky because it's a big theater town. There's 185 producing theater companies in the city of Chicago, so you can work all the time. That's not to say that you can make a living, but you can work all the time.
But you worked on stage with other actors.
With other actors, yeah, a lot of different plays all the time. The play that I have the citation for, the Jeff Award for, is the play called Portrait of a Shiksa. And it's
totally different from
totally different.
Catholic.
Although I was playing a religious person in that too, I played the Shiksa's mother, who was a Southern Christian fundamentalist from North Carolina. And it was quite fun for me. I really enjoyed it a lot. I worked with the Live Bait Theater Company, which is the theater that we opened Late Night Catechism in Chicago 7 years ago. And then I did a play called The Good Times Are Killing Me, written by Linda Barry, who's a cartoonist and novelist. You may recognize her work. She does a lot of alternative.
Yes.
Newspapers pick her stuff up. And she wrote a book, and it was turned into a play, and we did the play, and that's what I got the other citation for.
So then we got to your writing career.
Yes.
You started writing. You collaborated with a friend of yours.
With my friend of mine, Vicky Quaddy, who's my writing partner in Chicago. We wrote a Star Trek script, actually, for Next Generation. Submitted it. They looked at it for a while. They liked it, but then all the season was committed, so they sent it back. And then...
Did you like doing that? Did you like writing?
Oh,
you do?
Loved it. And then Vicky and I got together again and started working on this play. After some,
And how did it happen?
Okay.
I think the story is great because you have such a phenomenal memory. I mean, do you train your memory, or you just remember these things?
You just do it. You know, I've been doing it for 7 years. Here's the thing: if you
were
a plumber,
but I'm not talking about this. About life in general. About so many theaters in Chicago. You just said. Go on. Tell us how this happened.
I was at a dinner party with some friends, and I was telling some stories about Lives of the Saints, which I felt were funny. And one of my friends said to me, this is really funny. You should do something with this. And I thought, she's right. I've got all this information in my head. I should do something with it. So I called Vicky and said, do you want to work on this? She said, yes. And I called my friends at Live Bait and said, I think I want to work on something about Lives of the Saints. Can you squeeze me in? They said, yes. And here I am talking to you 7 years later. It just...
But Life of the Saints, tell us that one about St. Lawrence. Was that good of me to remember that?
Yes, that's very good. St. Lawrence was the is a Roman guy. He lived in the first 3 centuries, as most of the martyrs lived in the first 3 centuries. He was a Christian. He was confronted by somebody, and said, "Are you a Christian? You believe in that Jesus?" And he said, "Yes, I do." And they said, okay, we're going to torture you to death. Now I'm paraphrasing. They probably didn't say exactly this, but we're going to torture you to death for believing in him. They tied him to an iron grate, and they put him over a fire, and they were killing him, burning him to death on the fire, on the iron grate over the fire. And as he was dying, they said, now do you renounce Jesus? Now do you give up on this? And he said, no. And as a matter of fact, I'm done on this side, so you probably want to turn me over. And when I heard that as a kid, I just thought he was such a smarty pants. Here, they were torturing him. And he had the gumption to say, no, I'm done, turn me over. Smart remark.
Did they actually teach you that in school? They actually gave those
because
words?
Of his comment, St. Lawrence is the patron saint of cooks.
So that's where we got
because
our
he said, I'm
barbecue.
done on this side, turn me over, I'm done on this side. He's the patron saint of cooks. Go figure.
I don't know, but I can't believe if they
and it's funnier than fiction.
If they taught us history like that and said this is what George Washington did, and this when he went into his kitchen and he cooked this or he did that, maybe we would have been more interested in history.
Right. It's like mythology. It's like the stories of comic book heroes or the stories of the Roman and the Greek mythology figures. And it was so fascinating to me as a child. It's like superheroes.
But they taught you in a way that you were fascinated with it.
Tremendously fascinated by it.
And you remembered it.
Of course.
So when you get on stage, how did you start writing this? I think, for one thing, you do the play and you stay in a city forever.
Yeah, we're in our 7th year in Chicago. We're still running. We're in our 4th year off Broadway in New York. The show's running.
But you went to Boston.
I opened the show 2 years.
2 years in Boston.
That's right.
What do? You just get an apartment, move in?
They hook me up in an apartment, and I move in, and I stay there, and I do the show. I live in Boston for as long as it takes to get it going. Mostly, I don't stay 2 years anymore. Now it's as long as it takes to get the show going, and then
Did you make a lot of friends in Boston? Did you see the city?
Of course, of course. I got to know. The benefit of doing this job is that I live in for 3 or 4 months or longer in major cities all around the world, and so I get a chance to the opportunity to live in these cities for an extended period and kind of get to know them and know your way around and know the city and get the feeling of what the people are like, and it's been a lot of fun.
And then do you gear your
Some are
show?
nicer than others. Some are livelier than others.
Are they? How is Boston?
The English suck. I'm sorry. I hope you're not English. They were
English
horrible.
in England and
I was
London?
in London. Did the show in London. Rave reviews. We were one of the 6 shows to see, according to the Evening Standard, which is the major paper in London. One of the 6 shows to see at Christmas time in London. But the people suck. They're so dry and tired, and embarrassed and shy, and don't look at me. I don't want to play. Very uptight.
I see what you mean.
Yes.
How is your California audience?
Love them. They're just like home.
Home, you mean Chicago? They're
yes.
just like Chicago?
They respond the same way the people in Chicago respond. They're very outgoing. They're very warm. They're willing to work with you. They're willing to share their experiences with you. I love it. I love it in LA. It's a really wonderful city.
You have this wonderful exchange with the audience. You can just knock them down.
A
You
little.
love that?
Sometimes. Yes, I do.
I love it. How do you
here's the
remember
thing.
their names? You go, okay, Sam, okay, Joan, okay, so-and-so. And you remember all these names of the people in the one show that I saw.
Yeah. Well, if you're at a party and you meet a bunch of people, you try to remember their names.
I know, but you're on stage and you've got to remember everything
But I
else
have to
going
remember
on.
it's important that I remember their names, you know, and sometimes I can't. Sometimes I'm sorry, what was your name? I forgot, you know, and you have to go back and ask me. It's part of the thing. You learn, you know. You learn how
But
to,
are they polite to you?
always, very rarely do I ever get any audience member that's, I would say, crosses the line. Occasionally it happens.
What age can, like 12, 13-year-old can come in?
Any
11-year-old?
The thing is there's no swears, so it's not about content.
No.
It's about whether or not a kid who goes to school every day and gets yelled at by their teacher wants to come in and get yelled at by a teacher and thinks that's funny. You and I, as adults, think that's funny, but if you get it all day long, I don't know how funny you would think it was.
But it's something that...
Bring them in. They get along just fine.
What was...
Sometimes they know the answers better than the adults.
Oh, I'm sure they know the answers. What was one of the funniest things that happened with an audience that you were...
Oh, well, we'll talk about Boston. When I was in Boston, we had a 285-seat house in Boston, and we'd do Wednesday matinees for groups. And when I say groups, I mean senior citizens groups would book, they come in, and we'd have 285 senior citizens. And they were, one day I'm doing the show, and all of a sudden this large Italian woman in a melon-colored suit stands up and screams, "Oh my God, sister, it's a mouse." And I'm thinking, Cincinnati and the Who, they're going to be trampling each other, throwing their chairs to get out to get away from this mouse. And all I can think is, I got to take control of the situation, or these old people are going to go down, you know. So I look around, she's screaming and pointing, and her neighbors are all starting to get up and starting to, you know, and she points at the ground, and it's a little wooden mouse about this big. And I picked it up, I said, "Is this the mouse?" She goes, "Oh, yes." And the woman, the neighbor who was sitting next to her said, "Yes, and I've got one here somewhere too," digging in her purse. She had brought the wooden mouse, thrown it onto the floor, and made a big stink that there was a mouse in there trying to disrupt the class. This woman was 75 years old, and she's doing this in the class.
That is so funny.
So I really enjoyed that.
That's funny. But the other thing is you've also performed in front of nuns.
Yes.
And how is that?
It's been the thing about my play is that it's totally respectful, totally loving, not disrespectful in any way. It doesn't portray, most plays about nuns that are out nowadays portray the nuns to be nincompoops, people who can't take care of themselves, who are incapable of dealing with the real world, when in real life the nuns are the ones that take care of us. Not only do they take care of themselves, but they teach us when we're little, they nurse us when we're in the hospital, and when we're in the nursing home, they're caring for us. So
they liked your show?
I did 250 Sisters of St. Agnes in Wisconsin, Fond du Lac, Wisconsin. They went nuts. The median age was 67 years old. Those girls were on fire.
Those girls?
They were screaming with laughter. Yes, I call them girls. They don't mind. It's all right.
That's great.
Professional courtesy. You know what I mean?
Before we leave, one of the nice things that you do is at the end of your show, you come out and talk to the audience. You get very serious.
Yeah.
And what do you say?
Well, I tell them that I'm not a real nun, but there are real nuns, and there are problems that they're having. The elderly sisters, the retired sisters, and when I say retired, about 90 is when they retire, are then turned over to the mother house when they need to be taken care of, and they don't have any Social Security. It's a horrible problem because most of the sisters are elderly. They don't have any young nuns, generating the income to care for the elderly nuns, or even just there to be caring for them. And it's a huge drain on the religious orders because they don't receive Social Security because the Catholic Church didn't pay in for them, so they don't get it now. And it's a big drain. So I stand in the lobby with a bucket and I shake everyone's hand and I ask them to put a couple of dollars in for the retired Sisters of the Holy Name of Jesus and Mary in the Los Angeles area.
In Los Angeles,
Right.
So you designate
local orders. I try to use local orders if I can, and the Sisters of the Holy Name are local teaching orders. So a lot of the audience, you see them go like this because they recognize the fact that they had these nuns when they were in school.
I see.
Last year we collected over $100,000 for retired sisters. Just standing in the lobby with a bucket.
But it's you. You get out there,
Yes,
and they
it's me.
want to do it because it's you. It's a personal association.
It is a personal thing, and it is I tell you, I've met a really awful lot of nice nuns.
I know. Nuns.
Amazing
because
and
of
interesting
that.
people, yes.
Yeah, that's
very
really
fascinating and hardworking, and I'm all set for this year because at Christmas time I got 4 different orders sending me things saying, we're praying for you all year. Your name's on the altar all year, so I'm all set for the whole year. I got 4 orders of nuns praying for me.
You've got it made,
Yeah.
and we had it made by having you here
Thanks
today.
for having
so
us
thank
today.
you very
Appreciate
much.
it. Thank you, John.
Maripat Donovan in Late Night Catechism. Don't go away because we'll be back with designer Marika Contomposis. Hi, I'm Joan Quinn, and we're back with designer Marika Contomposis, who was born and raised in New York. She graduated from Pratt Institute with an industrial design major. What is that?
What is it?
Uh-huh.
At Pratt, it's designing things that will be mass-produced, so things that are designed to go into production in a commercial way. The people who started the movement were probably, well, they were involved in the Bauhaus movement. They were involved in pieces that you see at the Modern in New York, the Eames chairs, the beautiful pieces of Braun,
But mass-produced things?
Those are mass-produced. Those are things that are mass-produced. I mean, we get a whole bunch of people at Pratt who go and design cars. And I think because I was one of the few women in the school and always loved textiles, when we did furniture design, which is a major, focus there, started doing things out of knitted fabric and all kinds of crocheted fabric, and I would do
So you just
chairs.
brought it? You brought it to the major?
I brought it to the major, yeah, because I love textiles. Always loved textiles. Always, like all of us, always loved clothes and fabrics and fibers, and it was really exciting for them as well, because most of the work that was done there was, hard-line, steel pieces that would go into cars, or, as I said, Braun coffee makers, things like that.
But you wouldn't think a dress designer or a designer of clothes would get an industrial type of degree. I mean, there are different, in fashion school you learn how to mass produce, right?
Right.
So
Well,
you must have...
Maybe that's why I'm not Armani. It's like, I went to Pratt because I was an artist, and it's a great art school.
It is.
And the industrial design department is really exciting there. They had the best teachers there. And I thought, well, industrial design is something I don't know anything about, so I might as well do something I don't know about.
Oh, is that right? That was great.
I've always thought, it'd be good to be in business. I think I'd like to communicate in that way, communicate through, multiple pieces, making pieces several pieces rather than one piece at a time.
I see. Oh, I see. But then you brought fiber into this hardcore design major.
Right.
And how, explain fiber. I guess you did a little bit, but...
Well, industrial design is much more of like an intellectual type of training, and you know, we got some of that, but at one point we really started to create our own pieces. So we started to do chairs and furniture, and I made a chair that was shaped like a flower. I embroidered into the metal that the chair was, and then I learned to crochet so I could make petals that would drip off of the chair, and then you could like wrap the petals around you like a blanket.
Oh,
And
so
it was just, I mean, it was so different to them. It was so natural for me, so different for them. They still have it on display, you know, they just really thought it was just,
Were you
I think it was
working-
part of like just my feminine aesthetic adding to what they already had.
But were you going to, did you
I knew
knit?
nothing, I
Or
knew
were you
nothing about it. I
painter?
picked up a crochet hook and knitting needles, and I just did anything I wanted. I didn't really think about how it's supposed to be done, or I didn't think about
You didn't
I
take
should learn
lessons?
it, didn't take lessons. I just started doing it and made all of these amorphous things and changed colors every 2 minutes, and just like, in fact, when I've taught, I teach people to work that way, just like forget about the rules, we'll learn those later. Just like do something that is fun and put another color next to it, another yarn next to it, knit with paper, just do whatever, you know.
Really?
Just, you know, break down those barriers.
What a great inspiration.
Yeah.
I mean, for you to teach other people to do that.
Yeah.
Does fiber art fall under the fine arts category? You know,
It does.
has to be
It does. It
categorized.
does now. I think it
It
does the
does.
way, you know, art has, you know, included photography and, you know, different types of media that were not traditionally, you know, fine arts.
Paintings,
Paintings,
per
yeah,
se.
paintings and sculpture.
So this falls under it. Then you got a National Endowment for the Arts award
Award, yeah.
in
It was
craftsman.
in crafts, yeah.
In crafts. Well, did they talk? I mean, I'm wearing one of
What
your
you're
things
wearing
with-
now is part of the work that I do now, which is a limited production collection that I do that's made by other people. The award that I got was for pieces I had made myself. I did go and learn everything about the technology of it. I learned how to use the machines, how to dye yarn, how to use natural dyes, how to spin yarn, and how to make garments. And I learned a lot about the technique and used it as an artist. I had the training as an artist.
After you got the Craftsman Award?
No,
Or
before.
That's why
and then
you
when
learned.
this work was submitted, the work
I
that I had
see.
done myself,
I
that was
see.
the work that was I was
see.
given the award for.
I see. And then your work has been shown in the Metropolitan Museum and the Smithsonian
That's
and
right.
Los Angeles County.
That's right.
What do they show? Do they just show something like I'm wearing or a sweater like you're wearing?
No, they
or-
show pieces that I made myself.
I see.
This piece over here,
Let's see that.
this was shown at the American Craft Museum.
Oh, this was at the American Craft Museum, which is
Mm-hmm. In
it
New
Wash-
York.
In New York, across from the Whitney. Is that
Yeah,
the one?
it's a little bit hard to see.
I'll
It's
hold it.
very subtle, but these are all hand-painted layers of silk tulle. And then I've taken these leaves that I've found and painted them.
So
all
everything
different
has your
colors.
hand in it.
Yeah, this
You've
is almost
touched
like
everything.
a watercolor in fabric, all of the layers of organza. So this is a piece that I made myself, and I think that's the difference in art to wear. It's like something an artist has made as a bit of self-expression.
You put all of these.
These little
Let's see if we can get a
antique little
close-up
glass
of-
pieces, and it's just really has minute details on it.
So this would be on display.
This would be
where?
and this was right
This
now.
was in the museum.
this
Would it be
was-
on a mannequin? And
It would be on a mannequin, and it would probably have another piece with it. You know, I have other pieces to go with it.
well, let's look at the back too before you go, because the colors change.
Yeah,
They're all hand
They're
painted.
all-
They go
they're
from
all hand-
mauve to pink.
yeah.
to-
It's just kind of sprayed with all different colors.
Have you ever worn this?
I have.
Oh, you have. It's so beautiful.
I've never worn it out. I should.
Uh huh.
And then
So then that would be on display.
that would
with,
be, and a piece like this would be on display. This is all hand crocheted, and see, this is something.
This
This
camera
one?
is looking
Okay.
at you, right?
Okay, so you see these are all things that I learned just by not going by the rules. I learned how to make all of these different shapes and mix different yarns together. And lots of these pieces were just mistakes. They didn't fit, so I would turn something that was supposed to be on the front into the sleeve.
Are there any kind of guidelines that you have to use certain kinds of yarn, or you have to use something?
I don't think there are. I mean, what you're wearing is the finest yarn, a thin mohair, with the bulky cotton chenille, and then it has tulle on the inside. So it's really fun as a textile designer to use all of that contrast. So this will be in the San Francisco Museum at the DeYoung. That's in the permanent collection.
Does it have to be worn? Does it have to be something that could be worn?
Well, in art to wear, it's kind of. I think it should be you should be able to fit into it. I think that's part of just the technical challenge. I did do pieces after that were not to be worn.
Well, would this fit into, say, a costume collection?
I think so, yeah.
I see. So when they
people who buy these pieces are collectors of art to wear, that pieces that are donated to the Metropolitan Museum. They have that huge costume collection.
Exactly. But also, I think something like that could be put in a frame like the piece we have on the set.
Well, once I think I did the pieces to wear, I wanted to use the idea of the body, which is really interesting, and take it out of being able to wear. I mean, this, you can't wear it because it's very tiny.
Exactly. But so it's made just like you would make a big one, or did you make a large one?
It's almost like it's more of an idea of a garment.
Uh-huh.
I did this with silk that I bought in Japan. I was over in Japan, and it also has that kind of like little Japanese warrior. It's like a tough little piece.
Uh-huh. It does. It looks very Japanese.
Yeah. And even it's like all of the ridges on it look a little bit, like hard to me.
But it was made here.
Oh, I made it, yeah.
You made it? Did you weave it? Did you?
I crocheted it, yeah.
Crocheted it?
Yeah. And so after I did the art to wear, I did shows, gallery shows of pieces that were very tiny and very huge.
Oh.
So they were taken away from the body. But you were able to see them as clothes, but they were almost mythical. This is like little tiny people, or only giants could wear them.
So they could be framed and put in your...
Right.
I can't believe it. Our time is up.
Really?
I can't. We haven't even, when we start running the credits, we'll hold up some of the things. I know you made this blanket. You've done some of these things here.
And now we do this
but
commercial
we
stuff.
We want to thank her, Marika, for being on the show with us today, and we'll hold up some of her sweaters. If you have any questions, keep writing to us at 777 South Figueroa, 44th floor, Los Angeles 917, and we'll see you next time on the Joan Quinn Profiles.
That was so fast.